All right, so if you're a Nissan owner and you've got this pesky little light on your dashboard that's just driving you crazy, well, you're in the right spot. Today, we're going to crack the case on one of the most annoying check engine codes you can get. And yep, it all starts right here. That little amber light's staring back at you. You know, it's your car's way of trying to talk to you, but right now, it's pretty much speaking in riddles. So what on earth is it trying to say?
Now, you've probably already done the smart thing and plugged in a scanner, which spit out this little code, P1320. If that's the code you're looking at, don't go anywhere because we are about to break it all down.
All right, let's get right into it. What exactly is this P1320 code? This is our first clue in the mystery.
Okay, so what P1320 actually means is that your car's computer, the ECM, or engine control module, it's detected a problem with the ignition system. But here's the thing, it's a general problem. It's like the fire alarm is blaring in your house, but the system can't tell you which room the smoke is coming from. It just knows something's wrong.
And that right there is why this P1320 code can be so frustrating. It's basically a system-wide alert, not a pinpoint location. So it's up to us to play detective, follow the clues, and figure out who the culprit is.
So, speaking of suspects, who are the usual troublemakers when this code pops up?
Now, I know that list looks a little long, maybe a bit intimidating, but here's the really important part. The number one cause, and I mean by a long shot, is a bad ignition coil. Yeah, the other things can happen, but our investigation is going to start with the prime suspect every single time. And this table, this is basically our roadmap. It tells us exactly where to start. We're not just guessing here. We're going to start with the most likely cause, the ignition coils, and work our way down. Trust me, approaching it this way is going to save you a ton of time and probably some money too. All right, time to officially begin the investigation. Here's our diagnostic checklist. And notice, we're not just grabbing a wrench and tearing things apart. Nope, we're starting smart with the easiest checks first. Step 1, and you really need to listen to this one. Before you touch a single thing under the hood, check for other codes. See, P1320 is that general alarm we talked about, but if you see something like a P0301 or a P0302, well, that's the golden ticket. That tells you exactly which cylinder is misfiring. It's so true. Finding one of those codes is just like being handed a treasure map. The X literally marks the spot. It takes this big, vague problem and turns it into a very specific, easy-to-tackle mission. Okay, now we get to pop the hood. Step 2 is just a simple visual inspection. You're just looking for anything that looks obviously wrong. You know, cracks in the plastic on the coils, maybe some burn marks on the connectors, frayed wires, stuff like that. It seriously only takes a minute, and you'd be surprised how often the problem is just staring you right in the face. So if nothing obvious pops out, it's time to find our smoking gun. And that brings me to probably the most effective diagnostic trick in the book for this problem, the swap test. And I love this test. Why? Because it's free, it's super accurate, and you really only need a basic socket wrench to do it. Here's how it works. It's really simple. Let's imagine your scanner gave you that P0302 code, right? That means a misfire on cylinder number 2. All you're going to do is unplug and remove the ignition coil from cylinder 2 and swap it with a known good one from, say, cylinder 1. Then, and this is important, you use your scanner to clear the codes, and then you just take the car for a short drive around the block. And this is the big reveal. After that quick drive, you plug the scanner back in. Now did the code move? If that old P0302 code has now turned into a P0301, boom, the problem moved with the coil. You found your bad part. But if the code is still P0302, well, that tells you the coil is probably fine, and the problem is something else in that cylinder, maybe the spark plug.
So now that we've found our culprit, it's time to close the case.
And you know what? Because we did some smart detective work, the fix isn't some massive, expensive job. Nope. Most of the time, it's as simple as replacing just one single part, that bad ignition coil. See? That's the power of doing a proper diagnosis instead of just guessing. But hey, let me give you a little pro tip here. Think about it. All of your ignition coils are the same age, and they've all been working under the same heat and conditions. So if one of them has failed, there's a pretty good chance the others aren't too far behind. Especially if your car has a lot of miles on it, it's often a really smart move to just replace them all as a set. It can save you from having this exact same problem again in just a few months. Okay, once you have the new coil or coils installed, you're almost done. But these last steps are really important. First, use your scanner to clear all those codes out of the computer. Don't skip that. and then take it for one last test drive, just to make absolutely sure that check engine light stays off for good. So let's just recap the whole thing. What's the big takeaway here? It's that a really vague, annoying code like P1320 doesn't have to be some impossible mystery. If you just follow a logical process, look for those specific clues, isolate your main suspect, and then confirm it's bad before you spend money, you can turn this headache into a super simple, confident fix. And that kind of leaves us with one last question to chew on, right? What's the single most important tool any DIY mechanic should own? You know, I don't think it's a wrench or a socket set. I think it's the tool that gives you information, like that little OBD2 scanner we started with. That's the tool that takes you from just being a part swapper to being a real diagnostician. Thanks for tuning in.